talk to you guys about two other Friday the 13th sequels I felt like they kind of got shit on by the general public. The next one I'm going to talk about is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan came out in 1989. It is a little bit cheesy, but I think it's passable. I really do think it's a good sequel. It has a few continuity problems. My complaint on continuity is they show young Jason and he has hair. And Jason never did have hair. He was always bald. So that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's passable as well. But I like it because they change it up. It's like, let's have Jason go to New York and kill people in New York. It's like, it doesn't take place in Crystal Lake. You know, you had 7 films that take place in Crystal Lake. You know, try something different, and I thought they made it work. It's Kane Hodder as Jason, you know, which he did Part 7, The New Blood, you know, and then he's following up with Part 8, you know. And the plot is, New York has a new problem. High school senior Renee Wickman is in the ride of her life, and possibly her death. When she and her classmates take a graduation cruise bound for New York, little do they know that the crazed serial killer Jason Voorhees is a stowaway who quickly turns a teen-filled love boat celebration into the ultimate voyage of the damned. Only a few survivors reach New York, where the bloody rampage spills in the gritty streets and subways of Manhattan in a deadly game of hide-and-seek. So, Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Like I said, it does have a few cheesy moments, but it's passable, and it does have some mild continuity. But overall, I think the acting's good, the scripting's good, the directing's good. It was directed by Rob Hedden. And originally, the treatment with Friday the 13th Part 8 is they were thinking about making it a Freddy vs. Jason movie, but they couldn't do that because it was 2 different companies. So they decided to send Jason somewhere else. You know, they felt like, okay, you know, Jason's been in Crystal Lake for 7 movies. Let's have him go someplace else. So they had him go to New York. And it has humor in it, too. The movie itself, I think, has a little bit of a sense of humor. You can't take it too serious. Like, you kind of got to take it for what it is. It's like, well, it's Jason in New York, but it's just a fun sequel. It's a fun movie. And it's a movie that gets shunned and shit on by the critics, and it's like, I think that Friday the 13th Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell, is probably the worst Friday the 13th sequel. Really. You know, people complain that there's not enough Jason in Part 5. It's like, well, fuck, quit your complaining and your bitching and look at Jason Goes to Hell. That one is, there really isn't enough Jason in that one. You know, that's my complaint, you know, so, you know, I would compare Friday the 13th Part 8, you know, to a really bad movie that I own that I watch it occasionally. It's just so bad that it's actually entertaining. I would compare that to Troll 2. You know, you want to talk about a bad movie. Here's a bad movie right here, but I wrote on it with permanent marker the best worst horror film. Permanent marker. You know, that's a bad horror film right there. You know, these are in my opinion actually good movies. And lastly, I'm going to talk about one other one. And this one a lot of people hate too, but I like it. I think it's good. And I definitely think it's better than Jason Goes to Hell out of the Friday the 13th film series. Is Jason X. A lot of people give me shit for it, but I fucking like Jason X. It's Kane Hodder as Jason. It's a sci-fi horror slasher film. You know, it's Jason in space. There's been a lot of horror films where they send characters up in space. There's Leprechaun 4 in outer space. There's Hellraiser 4 Bloodline and Pinhead's in space in that one. And, you know, those fail miserably. They really are bad. I do not like those at all. And the one to me that is a win where you send a horror film villain up in space is Jason X. And it is a little bit cheesy. It is a little bit silly, but it is what it is. It's like, I find it goddamn entertaining. It's like, it is funny, but it's like, it's kind of like Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, you know. He's in New York. Well, he's in space in this one. They're kind of getting out there. It's a little silly, but that's okay. You know, And David Cronenberg, he has a cameo in Jason X, and he gets killed by Jason. One of the masters of horror has a cameo in it, and he gets killed by Jason. I just think that's really cool. I kind of wish I could do that with more horror film villains and have them kill masters of horror. I think it would be neat if Jason killed Sean Cunningham, or killed Victor Miller, or maybe they had Freddy Krueger kill Wes Craven or something. That would be pretty neat. But, you know, Jason X, you know, it had mixed reviews. Most people hated it, but there was a few people that liked it. And Tony Timpone, the editor for Fangoria magazine, actually wrote this about Jason X. He actually did like it and did praise the movie and give it a thumbs up. But he said, Jason X is a hoot and a half, easily the most satisfying and entertaining of the film series. So he found it very entertaining, and it is a hoot and a half. That's a good way to describe it, because it's a funny movie, and it kind of has fun with Jason, and they put him in outer space, and he goes back in the future, and it's kind of like Jason Takes Manhattan, where it's a cruise ship gone wrong, you know, that was like a doomed cruise ship. Well, this one's a little bit different. It's a doomed spaceship. It's like I said, you know, you have the same movie where you put the guy in Crystal Lake for so long, it's going to get repetitive after a while. And they wanted to try something different, and I give them credit for wanting to try something different. I just, you know, the next Friday the 13th movie, from my understanding, Paramount has reacquired the rights to Friday the 13th. The next one, I hope they take him back to Crystal Lake, and I hope it's good, because I didn't care for Jason Goes to Hell, and I didn't care for the Friday the 13th remake. I happen to be a huge Friday the 13th fan and Jason fan, and you know, it's a mixed bag with Jason X. There's a lot of people that hate it, but I really like it. Okay, maybe it doesn't keep up continuity. Sure, it puts Jason in the future and put him in space. You know, it ignores what happens in the first 8 Friday the 13th. But you know what? I think it's pretty good. And I think it's pretty damn entertaining. I think it's got good direction and good cinematography, and it's got some great kills and gore in the movie too. And Kane Hodder as Jason, you can't go wrong with Kane Hodder as Jason. Kane is the shit as Jason, okay? He makes Jason like a fucking comic book villain and a badass. And it's like, the 3 best movies with Kane Hodder as Jason is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, and Jason X. Period. Jason Goes to Hell is a piece of shit, and it's not Kane Hodder's fault. It's the director's fault. There's not enough. My biggest complaint is there's not enough Jason and Jason Goes to Hell. You know, they try to rip off The Hidden and you know, they try to rip off Shocker, which I own Shocker, and it's just kind of ridiculous. It's like, you know, so original for a fucking sequel. You know, Jason X and Jason Takes Manhattan, you know, Part 8 are a lot more original than Jason Goes to Hell, in my opinion. You know, so that's my final review of the 3 most underrated Friday the 13th sequels of all time. But now I'm going to talk about one other underrated sequel of all time, and that has to do with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.